Okay, I want you to imagine just for a second an entire town trapped inside a single building. No sprawling neighborhoods, no quiet suburban streets. Just one massive monolithic structure holding basically every single resident, right in the middle of the freezing, unforgiving Alaskan wilderness. Today, we're diving into the incredibly bizarre reality of Whittier, Alaska. It's tucked away behind the rugged Chugach Mountains, about 60 miles from Anchorage. And get this, it's a place where a school, a police station, a post office, a grocery store, a church, and even a health clinic all exist under one single roof. I know, it sounds literally like the premise of a dystopian sci-fi movie, but it is 100% real.
Now, to even get to this town, you've got to pass through the Anton Anderson Memorial Tunnel. And look, this isn't just your average highway tunnel. It closes completely, every single night. When those heavy doors shut, there is no way in, and there is absolutely no way out. The eerie finality of that nightly closure leaves the town totally isolated behind a massive wall of rock and ice. So if there's an emergency, or if you just suddenly feel the urge to leave, you're out of luck. You are, for all intents and purposes, trapped until the morning.
To really wrap your head around the scale of this isolation, just think about this number, 2.5. That's the length, in miles, of this tunnel. It's a single-lane passage carved straight through solid mountain rock, and it's actually shared by both cars and trains. This 2.5-mile tube of stone is literally the one and only physical barrier, and the only lifeline, between the residents of Whittier and the rest of the world. Driving through it, it feels way less like a normal commute and more like crossing over into an entirely isolated dimension.
So let's dive into Section 1. 14 stories, 200 people. Welcome to Begich Towers. Moving right into Section 2, a secret military past and the origins of Whittier. You really have to ask yourself, how on earth did an entire community end up living in such a claustrophobic setup? I mean, nobody just accidentally builds a vertical town in the middle of nowhere in Alaska. Well, back during World War II, the U.S. military needed a strategic outpost. They deliberately scoured the map for an oppressive, hard-to-reach location, and they found a spot hidden by dense fog 300 days a year. That exact weather made it the perfect secret military port. So the military moved in and built two massive structures to house soldiers and run a covert base totally away from prying eyes: the Hodge Building and an even bigger complex called the Buckner Building. Now, Buckner was nicknamed the city under one roof because it had a bowling alley, a swimming pool, a theater, and even a jail all inside. But following all that World War II construction, disaster struck. In 1964, the Great Alaska Earthquake hit, registering at a terrifying magnitude 9.2. It is actually still the most powerful earthquake ever recorded in North America. The sheer seismic violence of it severely damaged that massive Buckner building, making it totally unusable. Realizing how vulnerable the area was, and, with their strategic needs shifting anyway, the military completely abandoned Whittier by 1966. But the civilians? They actually stayed. They just moved into the one massive building that was left standing, the Hodge Building, which was later renamed to Begich Towers.
Which brings us to Section 3, surviving the Alaskan winter, inside Begich Towers.
So we know how they got there, but how do these folks actually survive those brutal Alaskan seasons locked inside one building? The logistics of living in Begich Towers are, frankly, highly efficient and deeply strange. Inside, everything is compacted. You've got the police station right there on the second floor, a school, which sometimes has maybe only a dozen kids, a grocery store, a church, a clinic, a post office. You don't walk down the street to visit your neighbor here, you just take the elevator. The corridors literally act as the town's sidewalks. You can wake up, go to school, buy groceries, see your doctor, and go to church without ever putting on a winter coat. These residents literally do not have to leave the building to go about their daily lives.
And staying inside isn't just about convenience. It's honestly a matter of survival. Residents can go for weeks on end without breathing a single breath of fresh outdoor air. Why? Because right on the other side of those walls, the town gets pounded by 250 inches of snow every year, complete with howling winds that regularly whip over 60 miles per hour. Going outside during the long winter months isn't just like a little uncomfortable, it is genuinely dangerous. The climate practically forces the entire population into an extreme state of indoor isolation for months at a time.
Let's move to Section 4, the psychological toll of living under one roof.
As fascinating as this architectural survival trap really is, we kind of have to pause for a second and think about the human element. Like, what does living like this actually do to a person's mind? The mental strain is pretty severe. First off, you're dealing with absolutely zero privacy. The walls inside Begich Towers are famously paper thin, so you're hearing your neighbors walking, talking, just living their lives mere inches from your own head every single day. Everyone knows everyone's business. Combine that with a serious lack of sunlight, and you've got an environment that's basically a breeding ground for severe cabin fever and seasonal depression. And remember, if you want an escape, say you just want to go to a movie theater or sit in a normal restaurant to get away from everyone, the nearest one is a full hour away and you have to drive through that single, claustrophobic mountain tunnel just to get there.
All right, Section 5, the ghost next door, the Buckner Building.
Now, perhaps the most unsettling part of living in Begich Towers isn't who's inside with you. It's actually what's waiting right outside the window. Remember that massive city under one roof we talked about earlier? The one that got wrecked by the 1964 earthquake? Yeah, it never went anywhere. It is an abandoned 1,000-room military megastructure that's just slowly, silently decaying right next door. It's rotting, it's completely in ruins, and because the town is so small, nearly every resident in Begich Towers is forced to stare out their window at this massive, dark, hollowed-out concrete corpse every single day.
So, you might be wondering, why not just tear the thing down? Well, get a load of this number, up to $20 million. That's the estimated cost to demolish the Buckner Building, mostly because of asbestos abatement and the crazy logistical challenges of getting equipment to such a remote location. For a town of only 200 people, raising $10 to $20 million for demolition is honestly an absolute impossibility. The sheer economics of it creates this overwhelming sense of hopelessness. They can't fix it, and they definitely can't remove it, so it just sits there, cementing itself as a permanent looming ghost over the residents, a constant decaying shadow right next to the only living building left.
Which leads us to Section 6. Why do they choose to stay? Finding home in Whittier.
When you really think about the extreme weather, the claustrophobia, those paper-thin walls, the tunnel that traps them at night, and that decaying military complex looming right out their windows, it kind of begs a pretty profound question about human nature. Why do people stay here? Now, there are, for sure, practical reasons. Some folks stay for the exceptionally good fishing in the Prince William Sound area. Others push through the winters just for the breathtaking, rugged natural beauty of the Alaskan summer. And for many, affordability is a big deal. It's a lot cheaper to live here than in major cities. But if you actually talk to the residents, those practicalities usually take a back seat. Most stay for a deeply emotional reason. Begich Towers, with all its flaws and absolute quirks, is home. It's a powerful anchor of community in a really harsh world.
But still, it leaves us with this lingering question to reflect on. The tunnel is right there. Every single morning, those heavy doors open up, providing a literal path straight to Anchorage and the rest of the world. They could pack up their cars and leave anytime they want. The physical barrier is definitely real at night, but that is not what truly traps the residents of Whittier.
And that brings us to the strangest, honestly most captivating part of this entire reality. Perfectly summarized right here. It is not that you cannot leave. It is that people don't. The psychological gravity of what we consider home is just so much stronger than any 2.5-mile tunnel through a mountain.